Hey guys, just want to go over the notes for the other day. I'm going to have this video on there so that you can uh, really get your notes and make sure you understand what we're talking about and the impact that the scientific revolution had. We started talking about it, and three different astronomers kind of really set in motion an event that would lead to many changes down the road. And those were Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo. And as we talked about it, these are ideas were revolutionary, meaning they were groundbreaking and changing the world. And because were not always accepted, and so, but they led to many different changes. And one of those being something developing called the scientific method. And you can see Francis Bacon here. I'm just kidding, that's just Bacon. But he helped develop something called the scientific method, which was, the idea that this method was used to confirm findings or to prove or disprove a hypothesis. Remember, you can see the scientific method over here to the right. And the scientific method was all about experience. Francis Bacon stressed experience in it being the most knowledge gaining process. That was the best way to gain knowledge was through experience. And he felt that through observation, you could see the world, and through testing the world through experience, you could eventually draw conclusions. And if it passed many times, you could perform or find a theory. But this idea would change how we approach society. It didn't come overnight, but it stressed the idea of mathematics and uh, seeing the world rather than just thinking that the world was or believing the world was what it was. Secondly, you had Rene Descartes, who he has a really new idea. He becomes one of the fathers of modern philosophy through his idea of reason and logic. Um, he believed that everything should be doubted until proven by reason, and that uh, mathematics and logic could be used to confirm these things. The only thing that he knew for certain was that he existed. He actually kind of was a little worried that he wasn't existing. He believed that he was being fooled by a spirit or a demon, or that he was in a dreamlike state, and that he kind of just kept thinking, and this thinking allowed him to reason with himself to say, I think, therefore I am. And from this starting point, he followed a strict train of thought, reasoning to arrive at basic truths. So he was seeking truth through logic. It was the next step in the process of the scientific revolution. It was a little different, but modern scientific methods are based on the ideas of Bacon and Descartes. Scientists have shown that observation experiments, together with general laws that can be expressed mathematically, can lead people to better understanding of the natural world. So, he saw the world and he thought, well, I have to be in it because I'm thinking about it. And so his ideas kind of create this modern philosophy that we uh, know of today. But it was a little different because his logic was there. Now, we've all heard of Isaac Newton and his work with gravity, and that's kind of the important part we're going to talk about here. Newton studied mathematics and physics at Cambridge and wasn't just a great student, he was almost a dropout. Um, but he became certain that all physical objects were affected equally by the same forces, but we didn't know what that force was. And a stroke of insight led him to figure it out. He took what Copernicus and Galileo and Kepler found about the solar system and he expanded upon it. Um, Newton's great discovery was that the same force ruled the motion of the planets and all other matter on Earth and in space. It worked on us, it worked on the moon, it worked on the stars, and it was the key idea was the theory of gravity, the law of universal gravitation. According to this law, every object in the universe attracts every other object. The degree of that attraction depends on the mass of the objects and the distance between them. Uh, in his book, The Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, he details this idea, and he says the universe was like a gigantic clock. All of its parts worked perfectly together, and it could be expressed mathematically using calculus. Then he developed his three laws of motion. The idea is that uh, an object in motion will stay at motion, and an object at rest will stay at rest. Uh, and so his ideas helped further prove the points of Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler, but also showed how they worked, not just that they were. We tend to have ideas early on that just show what they are. Newton's ideas showed how they worked, and that was important. But it really led to more and more changes, and again, it created doubt in the ways of the world. You had many other scientists that came up with new ideas during this time. Robert Boyle becomes the father of chemistry. Most people believed in alchemy at this point, that everything was made up of earth, fire, water, and air. And he establishes the idea that there are many more chemicals than that, and that alchemy is not something that actually can work. And you can't create whatever you want to based off those four elements, that everything is not created based off those four elements. These people believed that they could create gold just by mixing a certain amount of those elements together. And what he does is not only does he discover the existence of different elements like oxygen and things like that, but he creates it into a science. The idea is that he has, um, his book challenged Aristotle's ideas that the physical world consisted of just those four elements, and that they could be joined together in different ways. And his most famous contribution is Boyle's law that explains how volume, temperature, and pressure of gas affect each other. And so he really changed the idea of how the world was made up. And again, that little doubt creeps in there a little more. There were people that also investigated the body. Most of the workings with the body go all the way back to Aristotle and Galen and their ideas. And Galen never dissected a body of a human being. Instead, he studied the anatomy of pigs and other animals. So Andreas Vesalius, he dissected human bodies and made a huge discovery in anatomy of how the inner workings of the body work together. He proved Galen's assumptions were wrong, and he actually was a little crazy too, because he dug up bodies from graveyards, which was illegal at the time, to do his experiments. You also have William Harvey with some of his drawings here that discovered that blood circulates throughout the body, that it's pumped, that we have blood in our veins. This was also a new idea that had just come around. This was not something that was known straight out. So, he understood that the body pumped blood throughout your body. The heart pumped blood throughout your body, and it's pumped by the heart and returning through your veins. And so this was how the circulatory system works, but this was unknown to them before this time. I mean, again, you prick yourself and blood comes out, but they don't know how it works in the veins. And this is just, again, doubting how the world works led to them finding answers. But other things that come about are new tools. New tools are created during this time to read scientific data. It's kind of the most important part. We still use many of these things today, like thermometer, and microscope, barometer. Most of them just tools that they could use to measure experiments. Again, it was going beyond just casting questions upon the world. It was, how can we prove these questions, or the answers to these questions? And so they needed instruments to study these things: telescopes, thermometers, microscopes. And the legacy of the scientific revolution is that it spurred changes in other fields of study. That the scientific revolution casted doubt on the rest of the world. If we were wrong about this, what else were we wrong about? And so long-held beliefs were questioned. government, society, rights, freedoms, who should rule and who should not, how do they get their power, uh, what is the basic idea of why we're here. And so these ideas in the scientific revolution lead to something called the Enlightenment, which will bring further changes. And one of the biggest changes of society into happening. The Enlightenment doesn't happen without the scientific revolution. Scientific revolution casts that doubt, and that doubt continues down the line. And as we'll see, the doubt will lead to new answers. With every new answer became a new question. And with every new question came more doubt. And usually it was doubt in the institutions of authority. And so as we keep moving down this linear path of history, we will see that more and more changes will be coming. Like I said, I hope this helped you better understand the notes, and I hope you get all your notes. You're going to need them later on in the next week. And so make sure you copy these down, and make sure you've been doing your exit tickets and things of that sort, turning in your work. If you have any questions, give me an email, and if not, have a great day.